Good evening, I'm in Florida today. Today I thought I'd try to pull together a number of the concepts I've been talking about and synthesize it into a single sort of topic, but I'm going to introduce one more idea that cuts across all of those elements and I think helps maybe pull them together and make them make more sense. If I were to able to make one change in financial systems, I'd use a key concept in the financial system called the trial balance. The trial balance is something where we aggregate all the balances in the ledger for a reporting period. We test those, proof those to make sure that they're right, and then that trial balance, the balances that we've created at that point, become the balances that go into our reporting processes. It's a key step in any financial system process. If I were able to make one change, I would want to add a new element to our chart of account, but it wouldn't be just any old element. It would be a very significant element and have a significant far-reaching impact. The element that I would want to add that then would be able to show up in the trial balance would be a customer contract identifier, or if I want to be on the expense side of the ledger, it would be a vendor contract identifier. Why would I add that? Well, if I had that as an element of the chart of account, I could ignore that element in producing today's chart of account, today's trial balance. I could just ignore that one, summarize the balances. I'd have multiple balances for the same key when I exclude customer contract or vendor contract, but I could do the same thing, so it wouldn't change the nature of my financial reporting and what I could do out of the financial reporting per se. But what would happen when I'm able to produce a customer contract or vendor contract trial balance? It would mean that my trial balance has individual customer directly attributable P&Ls and balance sheets, or vendor contract directly attributable P&Ls and balance sheets within that trial balance. Now, when I have that sort of capability available to me, when my trial balance has that sort of data in it, it allows me then to use customer or contract or vendor contract attributes on a separate stored file that has no balances associated with it. Just those simple attributes could be combined with the trial balance that I have. I could pivot my trial balance by customer contract or vendor contract. Pivoting the trial balance would mean that I could produce all kinds of trial balance reports by that customer or vendor set of attributes. I can now get reliable, trusted data from the financial system that allows me to understand what my products, how my products are selling, how my customers are buying, how they're interacting with me financially, how my vendors are supplying me, what is the financial impact of a vendor upon my processes and upon my business, I can get to the material level of the vendor. I can see specifically what kinds of materials I'm using and how they cost, and specifically kinds of products on the customer side. All of this data would be available to me from a consolidated data supply chain. I could then use the StepUp concept to even go further. I could use StepUp concepts to add to my ledger balances which we haven't historically kept in the ledger, but which are business events nonetheless that I want to accumulate and post in some way. Some might be future dated sorts of things, forecast kinds of information. That's what goes on in risk all the time. Risk is a forecast kind of process. Management reporting keeps track of things that we might not necessarily measure externally for financial reporting, but we measure internally. And we want to keep track of balances internally for business events that are important for us and of an internal nature. Those same kinds of transactions could be represented, as we noted, in StepUps. So now my trial balance at the customer contract level isn't just about financial data, it's any quantitative data that's been posted for any type of business event. Now, what's the impact of doing this? Well, the impact of doing this very simple change, the reason no one else does this really, or we have not done it historically, has been the impact upon compute capacity required. For most organizations of any significant size that have thousands of customers, you're now adding and multiplying your chart of account elements by thousands at a minimum. In large organizations, it's multiplied by millions and tens of millions. That is a very significant number when it comes to the number of balances that are accumulated. those balances have to be updated on a daily basis. Remember, we get no relief from the daily financial cycle. We have to meet those critical deadlines. It doesn't matter what we store, we have to meet those deadlines. So this impact upon the processing required in the ledger is very substantial. That's where we have to use Moore's law and the increases of compute capacity that have come along more effectively to solve these kinds of problems. We can't let it solve the problems of making programmers more efficient so they can write more code, or using it for other processes like recording videos. We have to apply that compute capacity to these critical financial, quantitative, business event type processes. Doing so will allow us then to produce a lot more data off of a single consolidated data supply chain. One change, if I could do one change, it would require a big change in the processing capacity, but the impacts would be far-reaching. I think that big change would be one of the major elements and one of the major causes of us creating a true metric engine.